joining us this morning to talk all things legalities, copyright, and everything that has to do with music is none other than the Deputy Director Henry Makombe from the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association, as we're going to be talking much more. Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you very much.
That's great. Now let's get right into it.
Okay.
Could you please begin by providing us with an overview of Zimura and what it does?
Thank you very much. Zimbabwe Music Rights Association is an organization which was established in 1982 excuse me, for the purposes of collection and distribution of royalties. It is wholly owned by music composers, producers of music, and publishers. So what we do is we license every public music user, could be a broadcaster, a shop, a bar, a restaurant that plays music publicly. And when we are done with licensing, we deduct a certain percentage, up to 30%. That one will cover for our admin expenses, and then the difference will then be distributed to the right holders.
Okay, so currently how many members belong to the association?
We've got 4,900. Yes.
Okay, that
Yes.
seems like a steady number, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is. We have been growing every year. Every time a board sits, they register new members into the board, into
Okay.
the membership.
All right. It so happens that most people would love to make music and are making music, but they
Correct.
don't understand why it is essential for them to register with Zimura. Can you please enlighten on the importance of doing that?
Thank you very much. It is important for the music composer out there to register with Zimbabwe Music Rights Association because we distribute royalties. It is difficult, rather impossible, for the music composer to move around, monitoring who is playing his or her music, negotiate for the fees, and it is also difficult even for the music user to try and get in touch with every music composer to get permission. So the Act makes it easier. The Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act makes it easier by establishing organizations like Zimbabwe Music Rights Association. We then bridge the gap between the right holder and the user of music. So it will be easy for both parties to then satisfy their needs, because the user of music has got an obligation to get permission, and at the same time the owner of rights has got an obligation to make sure that he or she licenses anyone who wants to use his or her music. So we are in the middle to make sure that they register their works and they get royalties. So that's one benefit. The second benefit is that we conduct what we call copyright workshops countrywide. So we have to make it a point that anyone, our member, a music enthusiast, band managers, they get to understand what copyright states. With a focus more on our members, they need to know where their rights start and where they end. So we realize that copyright is a complex subject, but when we reach out to them, they then get an opportunity to ask questions, to get to learn more about copyright, about their right, about the industry that they are getting into, or understand better their industry that they are into. So that's benefit number 2. Number 3, we've got an arrangement with Nyaradzo, a funeral policy. This one is a free funeral policy cover that we give to our members. So when you register with Zimura, you don't need to pay other funeral service providers. You are now covered. And in the event that you pass on, we provide doom casket, mortuary services, lowering device, chairs, and a bus that carries the mourner, and the hearse that carries the body, and a little bit of some groceries to assist with the funeral process. And we also have got gratuity that we pay. It's like pension that we give to our members after they reach about 75 years. Yes, so that's another benefit. So you've got every reason out there to register with Zimra, yes. We've got also, the last one is the incapacitation allowance. In the event that as a musician you are involved in an accident and you can't perform like you used to do when you were able-bodied, or you can be paralyzed, or you can be hit by stroke. So we've got $500 that we give to our members.
Seems like it's quite enticing.
Yeah, sure.
We understand that you also recently introduced ACR Cloud.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about it and how it functions?
ACR Monitoring Cloud, we engaged, it's owned wholly by a Chinese firm. But the whole idea is to bring in transparency, is to assist or enhance in bringing in transparency in our documentation distribution processes when we do our distributions. So this is a monitoring system that monitors online broadcasting stations real time. So right now, if you want to have a playlist from 3K TV and it's being monitored with the platform, we can download all the tracks that they've played since morning up to this hour. Yes.
Okay, that's quite insightful. Now, there's been a lot of controversy in the past 2 years, especially surrounding, copyright. So we also have understood that there has been a 150 United States dollar fee that has been introduced to bands who
Yes.
play cover songs. Could you please elaborate on the significance of this fee and its alignment with the copyright laws?
That's a very good question. Like I said before, we are in the business of collection and distribution of royalties. What we do is we look at who is playing music publicly. And if you are an entity or an individual who plays music publicly without the authority of the owner, you need a license from Zimura. So cover bands, when we look at them, although some of them are our members and they're in the bracket of being artists and musicians, we see them the same way we see broadcasters, especially when they play cover versions, say above 90% of their content. Yeah, if they play more than 90% of content that does not belong to them, they require a license. But in situations where a band plays 90% of their songs, and they play 2, 3, 4, 5 songs that does not belong to them, they don't need a license from Zimura. So they are not required to pay 150. Their obligation is just to fill in their live performance forms, and then they submit to Zimura so that we use those as a basis of our distribution.
Okay.
Yes.
And what does the relevant legislation currently say regarding the performance of cover songs?
Section 17 of the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act provides for the rights that are exclusively owned by the music composer. So those rights include reproduction, distribution, public performance, broadcasting. So if there's anyone who wants to do any of those acts stated under that section, they need to have permission from the owner. Now, when members join Zimbabwe Music Rights Association, they give the mandate to Zimura to do that on their behalf.
Okay.
This is why we then move around and make sure that anyone who is using music publicly has to be licensed. So everything that we do is in sync with the provisions of the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act.
Okay.
Yes.
And you've elaborated much on how one needs to be licensed, but what other steps that they should take in terms of getting a license?
In terms of getting a license, what you just need to do is reach out to Zemira, and you provide your details. Are you a company? Your physical address, why you are paying for the license in terms of, we want to understand, is it for background music, is it for live, or any other use, because you can get a license for synchronization of music. When we say synchronization, we are talking about putting music together with moving pictures. Yes. So it depends with the nature of the use of music that one wants. So we have to know, so that when we do our licensing, we know exactly where the tariff is supposed to be applied, depending with the usage of music.
Okay, and when it comes to all these issues of copyright, people are now familiar with the word because of what happened before with some Zimbabwean artists.
Yes.
And a lot of people throw around the word, I will sue you. But what are the legal consequences of someone using music without the proper authorization?
When you use someone's work without authority, you are like a thief. It's like I'm using your property without your authority. I'm using your car without your authority. Or you're using my phone without my authority. And when you do that, as Zimbabwe Music Rights Association, we don't come to you and pounce you. No, we educate you so that you understand your obligation. But when you then refuse to comply or to cooperate, we are left with no option, because the Act provides that we have to take the legal route. So we have to take a legal route. The whole idea is not to try and sue our client or our potential client.
Yes.
But we are trying to protect the interest of the music composer, because it's a property that belongs to someone else. And when you do that without permission, there are two routes. Either you can go civil route or criminal route. But that's a legal process anyway. The whole idea will be trying to redress the situation that one would have caused.
Okay.
Yes.
And we have seen also the coming in of new CMOs. To what extent has this affected your operations, and what are the dangers of registering so many CMOs, particularly in a country as small as Zimbabwe?
Having another CMO, especially managing the same right, complicates the administration, the enforcement of copyright. We license music composers. We've got a market, and the moment another player comes in, the market is now confused as to how much should we pay to who. So that confusion benefits more the user of music, because most of them will start to delay making payments. Some will say, you are now too many in terms of licenses, so the ease of doing business is no longer there. There are now a lot of licenses coming in, especially targeting the entertainment, because there will be a license from Zimbabwe Music Rights, ZBC, National Arts Council, Censorship Board. Or they are coming because of a television set or a radio. So that complicates the enforcement of copyright. And the artist, at the end of the day, will be the loser, because the CMO, all the CMOs will be collecting and deducting their admin costs. For example, here in Zimbabwe, we've got another CMO that was registered by the ministry, and we've got CISA guidelines that states that we can deduct up to 30% of our collections for our admin expenses. So if this other CMO collects and then also deduct 30%, that's 60% of the 100% share of the market. So it means 40% is now being channeled to the music composers. It means that the original composers or artists or musicians are again losing. So those are the challenges that comes in when two CMOs, especially managing the same right, are in the same market. Another challenge also is that CMOs will start undercutting each other in terms of tariffs. If CMO X goes to license a client that uses music, maybe bar, and then we also go and license that bar, chances are high, because we want to win this client. Then it gives the bargaining power to the user of music, because he's now saying, maybe I've got now an allowance to choose either this one or you guys. So in the process of trying to win that client, other CMO can undercut the tariff of the other. Where the client was invoiced $150, they can say, give us $100. So if you want to win that client, we then say, give us 50. And then they also come back and say, give us 25. And the value goes down like that.
Okay.
So yeah, those are some of the challenges.
It seems
as a
like,
result,
yeah,
yes.
those are so many challenges. Hopefully all the stakeholders can work amicably and collaborate for better opportunities for the clients and also as the CMOs. Now, as we conclude, can you please give us your last shot? What do you have to say?
Thank you for inviting me. That's the first one. On this
Pleasure.
platform. If you are a music composer out there and you are not a member of Zimbabwe Music Rights Association, you are losing out. Some of the benefits that I elaborated, that I stated before, they are waiting for you. So I don't see why you should not register with the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association. Secondly, as a music composer, this is just a word of advice. You need to understand that music industry, it is business. You need to understand who consumes your work. You need to understand how you can market your product. You need to know that networking is also critical, is also important in growing your brand and building your brand. Create your own compositions. If you want to grow your brand, don't be a copycat. And if you are a band that plays cover versions out there, yeah, you need to pay Zimira $150 per event.
Okay, thank you very much for coming through, Mr. Makombe.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
There you have it. Here on Ngariedze, we make sure that we educate you with informative things. As for music lovers and also those who want to join the music industry, you heard it yourself here as we had Deputy Director Mr. Makombe in studio talking to us all things that have to do with copyright, CMOs, and so much more. Please do stay tuned. You're watching Ngariedze.